following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. The New York Mets in the zone. The New York Mets with the highest payroll in baseball. And I mean, it sounds almost comical to say that. We got the Mavens here, Robert Cole, Marty Rose. How are you guys?
Good. Very good. Thanks, Ralph.
Yep, doing good.
Good. And, from the standpoint of it takes money to make money, I'm very happy with the situation. What do you say, Robert? Are they overspending?
No, not in this market, and not, Steve Cohen came into this saying he's going to spend money. So I'm happy as a Mets fan. We've been watching the Yankees and the Dodgers, spend money hands over fist. So I'm very happy.
For years, not just this season, but it's been ongoing that the Mets have been hampered by Will Ponzi, and I'll let you, Marty, talk about that a little bit. The history of their spending, it's been horrible.
Well,
yeah. Biggest market in the world,
Well, ever since that scandal that they were involved in years ago, with the the guy that I believe he's now dead.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Tony Madoff.
Yeah, Madoff. I mean, they really got put in a bad spot in that situation. It was really bad, and they got hurt badly. But they just didn't. Either they didn't have the money, or they didn't want to spend it, or both. I don't know which. But I think with Steve Cohen last year, when he gave Lindor that kind of money, it kind of raised eyebrows, not just for the rest of the league, but for us as well. I mean, it was shocking. And now he comes along and gives Scherzer like an incredible amount of money. I never heard of such a thing. And even and he signed four free agents, including Scherzer. But I mean, 3 guys that are going right into the starting lineup. So this is just a great situation, and I could see why the other owners were a little bit hesitant on approving him when he became a buyer.
Right. He's going to price everybody out of the business, in other words.
I mean, how can you? Nobody was bidding against him for these guys. But then again, the season is just in jeopardy as we speak. I mean, there's been no
every
movement.
season, the country's in jeopardy. Every sport.
That too. But besides the COVID thing, I mean, they don't have a deal with the players, with MLB. So first things first.
Can either of you explain to me what the issue is? It's millionaires and billionaires. You don't know who to root for, but who's just and who's unjust in this? Would you say that the owners are unjust? Would you say the players are unjust? Or is it both? Just simple greed? Let you start, Robert.
It's probably a little of both. The the owners want to change the financial deal that was made, and they want to kind of put a cap on things. They want to do things differently. The players want a bigger share of the money that's generated. So they're both looking at money, and they're both trying to get other ancillary things involved as well.
Okay, Marty.
I don't know who to blame, Ralph. Everybody says the players should get as much as they can get, but I mean, what is enough? Seriously now. I mean, $40 million for 1 year. What? I mean, is that completely crazy or what? Seriously.
That's more than we make in a lifetime.
We. Yeah, really. No, I mean, just, how much is enough? Is anything ever enough? I don't, the owners are all billionaires, okay. We know that, and they became billionaires by working hard or inheriting things from their parents or whatever. But, these guys have been playing their asses off for many years, and, they hang around for, 6 years to become a free agent. I think that's one of the things they're trying to change also, the number of years to free agency. That's one of the things. And once they get there, the money is just it's unfathomable. I just I don't get how much. I just don't get it. I can't put my hand on it. I don't understand.
I read something today that may shock you. If a player is up on a major league roster for 34 days, not weeks, not months, days, he's going to get a pension for life at age 40-something. So it isn't just the superstars. It's the price of mediocrity when you get a guy coming up with a rookie making minimum of $500,000 a year. It's the entire industry, and there's something to be said for if the money's there, why not get what you can as a player? I'm not blaming them. I'm just, I see the fan being priced out and paying for it. How many minor league games for, let's not talk about that because minor leagues and major leagues are having this incredible feud, and Major League is winning that one too. But that's for another show, and a little more heartburn for anybody who's a traditionalist and who sees what it's doing to the continuity of these leagues and the overall lack of talent. Not talent, they've got the talent, but skills on a major league level because they don't put any money into, just coaching, minor league coaching and what have you.
Well, the minor league players make nothing. That's something that's got to change. They can't even afford an apartment wherever they're playing. They got to have like 3 guys sharing an apartment. I mean, while somebody else is making $40 million. I mean, why is that? That shouldn't be.
That's crazy. I'll tell you why. One of the things, the Major League Players Union has no use for minor league guys. All they're doing is protecting what they made, but they
Yes.
don't care about. You know what I'm saying? In other words, there's millions of dollars that they've got sitting there, and there's a bevy of players who are just retired players who are living on jack shit and medical bills up the asshole and being old and have nothing. And these players of today will not budge and give these people some decent living expenses. So it's both sides. But the owners always seem to win. When you look at it, the big money. Anyway, one of the curses. I'm going to ask you guys to get off money for a second. Are you happy with Buck Showalter hiring? Marty, start with you.
Yeah, sure. He's got the most experience, and it's not a surprise. I mean, I was just wondering if these interviews are really on the level, seeing as how Steve Cohn, even before any of the interviews started, announced that he wanted Showalter, and Max Scherzer announced that he wanted Showalter. So I
think it's some sort of rule in baseball, either put in by the unions, that they have to interview X number of certain amount of people.
Probably, but anyway, I'm happy with it. Yes.
Okay, Robert, are you happy?
Oh, I'm fine with it. Although I would have preferred Matt Quatrero from the Rays. I thought he was better suited for today and better suited for the Mets. But Showalter has the credentials. Hopefully, as he says and others say, he has mellowed and is with the current, way baseball is played. We'll see. But yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
The press conference is tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Got to ask you one more thing. I had a gut reaction to a posting by someone who really agrees with my thought. And I say the fly in the ointment may be Lindor's being a clubhouse jerk and tied in for like 10 years at $30 zillion. Can you see that being a problem? Remember, he hit like 220 something. Can you see that being a problem, or was that just a bump in the road? This time I'll start with you, Robert.
Oh, I think it was a bump in the road. Manny Machado, who's very much of the same temperament as Lindor, came out today with a glowing recommendation to Showalter, said that Showalter kept him in check, kept him humble, kept him playing the game the way it should be played. So maybe Buck will have that type of, effect on Lindor as well.
Machado was absolutely helped by Showalter. So, boy, that's makes me feel good as just a Met fan. Because with all that money, you got to find a way of making the 162 a long series with 30 guys who are all so much ego oriented. I just hope we don't get rid of McNeil and see that, because that season could have been a bump in the road for him. And if they trade him and don't get anything back, or he becomes a a superstar or whatever, that wouldn't be good. Yeah.
Well, I think right now McNeil is part of the plan. Right now I think McNeil is going to be either your second baseman, or if Cano does come back and is healthy and Cano plays second, McNeil becomes that super utility guy that they wanted him to be a couple of years ago.
Right, which is good. And it's going to take depth. We remember last year, it's not going to take as much depth as last year, just by the numbers. There's no way you can have 60-plus guys on a roster 2 years in a row. Now, I may have to eat those words, but I'd be very surprised just by the numbers. But they got to do something about the oblique injuries and the injuries that you would think simple stretching program would avoid. The hamstrings. How many guys had hammies last year? About 12, if not more. Yeah.
And go ahead, Marty.
No, I was going to say, if the DH comes in, then there should be less pitching injuries, as far as, running the bases and swinging the bat. And they say DeGrom hurt himself swinging the bat.
Right.
So hopefully that happens, and we don't have to deal with this silly pitcher injuries.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you got the DH. You got the DH on the other side, so you're facing guys. There's no break in the lineup, so to speak.
Well, the American League's been doing it for 40 years now, so
that's true. That's true. But for an old traditionalist, you hate to see the glove not be a factor, a negative glove. You got a guy like Stewart. I'm thinking, could you imagine how much money Dick Stewart would make today? And how much it would help a ball club to get him off the field. So it's not only a changing world, it's a changing game of baseball.
I just don't like the two sets of rules, especially when they play each other in interleague. Either put in one set of rules or stop the stupid interleague, one or the other.
So you could build a team one way or the other, and not have to worry about where you're playing, who you're playing, this, that, and the other thing. I agree with you there. I've mellowed. There was a time I said, "Oh, that would be horrible," and then the American League did it, and I got to talk to the last pitcher who batted in 1972, right before Blumberg, and I got to talk to Blumberg as well. So that's, as a fan, as a Walter Mitty kind of guy. So anything else that you think is poignant to talk about? You guys are the mavens, the experts, and the guys I learn from, really and truthfully. Take a second. You're the experts. Marty, anything you want to share?
I don't know. It's just like everything's at a standstill. There's not even any talking going on. You hear nothing. So I mean, and it's hard to figure what's going to be with this COVID situation as we get closer to February, when spring training is supposed to start. But there has to be some sort of agreement first, and they are not speaking. So it's complete silence. What can you say?
And doesn't there have to be some sort of agreement on how they handle it? In other words, are they going to require these guys to be vaccinated and boosted and this, that, and the other thing?
Yeah, that they have to agree on all that.
Yeah,
Federal employees, federal employers who employ more than 100 people, and that just got approved by the Supreme Court, the Biden mandate that these guys must be vaccinated. And it's off the subject of baseball. The Brooklyn Nets just re-signed a guy who refuses to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And they re-signed him, and he still can't play. I read that and I went, what is this world coming to? It's just one crazy mixed up thing after another. And this 50% of the populace has not been vaccinated. Not just baseball, basketball, and hockey. We're talking the world, the country. Why can't people just get vaccinated? What is the big deal? I did it, and I'm not big on needles, which is a good thing. My mother, honestly, my mother never worried about anything. She said, "You will never turn to that because you're so afraid of needles." As a kid, and she was absolutely right. I didn't not turn to it for that reason specifically, but it crossed my mind a few times over the course of a rocky lifetime that it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Just stay green. That's my motto. Not just because green was my camp color. Got to mention Kittatinny Camp.
Right.
So, you, Robert, thoughts of the day, anything you want to share? It's cathartic to share.
Well, I'm still just thinking about baseball. What's going to happen is when the agreement is reached, and there's speculation that it'll happen around March 1st, okay, there's going to be a feeding frenzy of all the players that are still not signed. And the players and the teams are going to be going crazy. And you have guys out there, that I'm looking at for the Mets, like Chris Bryant, for instance, Michael Conforto. Okay, Michael Conforto.
I remember that name very vividly. 255 hitter. With the kind of name and the image that throws on decimal points, it's such entertainment. And how many fans can you bring in, and this, that, and the other thing? Wish they handled it in a little more objective way or subjective way. But that's not to be. It is a game. It is entertainment, and but the more I think about it, the happier I am to see Thor be gone. He was a hypocrite, and I'll always resent him, like I'll always resent Nolan Ryan, for instance. Just one way or the other, it's labor, and I'll always resent Dick Young for screwing everything up and portraying the owners as the good guy.
Right.
And it also brings back times when the press had this incredible power, and the New York press was got guys in the Hall of Fame that either didn't belong there or could have been other guys in their place. And just the way it is, New York, those New York people.
Yep.
Talking about the Hall of Fame, Ralph.
Yes.
This is the last year for a couple of very controversial guys, I believe. Right. Isn't that true?
Yeah, Bonds and Clemens.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you think? I mean, you think they kept them out for 9 years, and obviously they belong based on everything even before any kind of PEDs.
Alleged PEDs.
Well, yeah, alleged, yeah.
You almost have to say that. I read this thing that Bonds was never, doesn't mean he didn't do it. We all know he did it. Never failed the test. But what cover-ups was he using? He put a lot of money into Balco, and he had the best chemists going. And the hypocritical part is when he ran his kid out there with him in interviews. And in interviews with his kid standing there, he said, "Oh, I don't know what the cream is. I have no idea what that is." And if you read a chapter in my book about the effects of PEDs for the high school kids, this kid Garibaldi, who was a relative of Bob Garibaldi, a bonus baby with the Giants in '62. And his cousin or nephew or whoever it was a high school prospect or a baseball prospect and abused steroids and ended up dying. And how many kids took an example from Bonds and Clemens and those guys, yep, and had the philosophy. And, you think about it, if you could make $50 million, would you do steroids for a while? I mean, I'm not judging those who did, those who didn't, but this kid passed away. It's a horrible tragedy. Yep. And many others. And lives lost and bodies changed and long-term effects and this, that, and the other thing. It's a social problem. We weren't, as baseball fans, growing up, we were taught to think about the things that were baseball, not business and this and that. But it's there. And with Bonds and Clemens, do you have to take that into consideration, how the effect they had, and then, let your father, the ball player would say, let your father be a role model type thing. I'm not a role model, I'm a ball player. So there's so many facets of it, and I have a headache now.
Well, they got a chance. I think they both have a chance this time. We'll see. But
yeah,
I'm saying.
And when is the announcement?
Not sure about that.
Okay.
And also on a lighter note with the Hall of Fame, let's recognize Gil Hodges getting in.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't realize we hadn't spoken since then. It's been a while, guys. Yes, long overdue. And Minnie Minoso and Buck O'Neill, they did right this time for the most part. Dick Allen on the fence. But in looking back, that was a great honor. Should have come a long time ago for Hodges. That was ridiculous.
Yes, and both as a player for the Dodgers, and then the Mets manager doing something that turned that franchise around.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I was talking to a guy named Don Wardlow today on another podcast, and when Gil died, they hired Yogi, and I mentioned on that podcast, I mentioned on this, it was a classless moment in Metsdom. They announced during the funeral that Yogi Berra took over. Mm-hmm. And whether you thought Yogi Berra was the choice or not, what I said, it was disgraceful. It was an embarrassment as a Met fan, and there have been many times we've been embarrassed by them, but I can't think of one time that it was worse. Aside, I thought that rather than Yogi, had they hired Herzog to be manager, Herzog really was responsible he did a lot of scouting and personnel work, and he had his fingerprints on that championship, along with Hodges, of course. Along with him, indeed, Hodges saw something in them in spring training, and he got enough out of them. That was a great years. We both, Marty, were gone from the city at that time.
Yes, we were.
Me in California, and you were gone too. So at least I did have Armed Forces radio where I was, so I was able to hear the games. But with the 12-hour time difference, I had to stay up all night to listen to the '69 series. So right.
The Orioles were such big favorites, and I listened to the first game, and when they lost the first game, I got very depressed, and I said, you know what, I'm sleeping tomorrow. I'm not listening tomorrow, because I had to stay up all night. So after they won Game 2, then I stayed up for the other games.
I remember reading in the Air Force Times, Marty Rose, Staff Sergeant Marty Rose is pissed and after sleep. And I thought, I know that guy. I know him since second grade. That's an amazing coincidence. And how they printed it, how they knew. The United States Air Force, give them some credit.
Oh,
good
by the
show,
way,
gentlemen.
The announcement for the Hall of Fame is January 25th. So
good.
I was able
good.
to look that up while we were talking.
Something to look forward to in the new year. If we don't speak, have a very, very Merry Christmas, all of you. Both of you.
Yeah,
and your families.
Thanks, you too, Ralph. Thanks, Ralph.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Robert. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm grateful. If this isn't the time to be grateful, that's Thanksgiving. I get my holidays confused. But I'm adjusting to old age quite well. Thank you. I'll be demented soon enough. Thank you. All right, completely demented. I'm not to say that I'm not to a certain extent, but alles is relative. Be well, guys. Please.
Right.
Thank you again. Really, I do thank you for being my friends.
Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Speak
Ralph.
to you soon.
All right. Be well. Thank you for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Marty Rose, Robert Cole, and me, Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. Adios and happy trails.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.